Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Shireen Bhan. Now, being the second largest population in the world, India seems like the ideal market for a people mover. And no MPV has seen the success of the Toyota Innova. Other Japanese manufacturers like Suzuki with the Ertiga and Nissan with the Evalia are trying to emulate its popularity, but now there's a new pretender to the throne. After much anticipation, Honda has readied its MPV, the Mobilio, for its India launch. Here are Rohit's first impressions after driving it right here.
Now, with long working hours and even longer commutes becoming a common phenomenon, the idea of a weekend plan is getting all the more popular. And for those who have fulfilled their biological purpose on this planet, spending time with their family over a weekend is the only quality time that they get. And so they indulge in exciting activities like going to a shopping mall or a congested touring destination. And because the entire family loves traveling together, there's a need of a people carrier. In fact, there are quite a few in the market, and now Honda has introduced their own. It's called the Mobilio. It is based on an extended Brio platform and has a wheelbase that is longer than the Amaze even. It is 1.6 meters high, and though it looks tall when standing solitary, it is shorter than every other MPV in its range. It boasts of best-in-class ground clearance though. With its 4.4 meter length, it claims to be convenient for tight parking spaces and congested traffic, but getting a judgment of its length isn't easy for a newbie. The familiar front face should inspire some confidence, but the prettiest angle for the Mobilio is the rear end. The Civic Tourer concept-inspired floating C-pillar looks radical. The lightning bolt-shaped shoulder line not only adds to that effect, but also gives the car a large glass house, and a roomy feel is what you would want on those long-distance drives. The Mobilio isn't the prettiest car around and looks like an Amaze with a mohawk. But it certainly breaks away from the breadbox design stereotype of other MPVs around. The interiors are essentially the same as the Amaze, but the top spec trim gets the tacky foxwood panels, which are similar to the accessories sold for the Amaze and the Brio. The quality of plastics doesn't seem to be the best in class either, and the panel gaps and the shoddy bits like these audio input connectors are a big letdown. The Mobilio's trump card though is the space. Now the headroom for the second row is quite good. It's in fact very generous. The window is really large, so you get a roomy feeling right here. And the leg space is quite good. This seat is taken completely back, so still I have decent amount of knee room. Foot space is quite good. Under thigh support could have been better, but I'm not complaining. And the interesting thing is, the petrol tank for the vehicle sits under these seats, and that is why you have a generous amount of space. However, because that happens, there's a step effect at the back, and so the rear space is only good enough for kids. I'm not really going to attempt getting in there. However, let me show you how you get into the third row. Quite simple. There's a lever here, and these are tumble seats, so they can easily come up. You can easily access the third row, but the space is not as easy enough. It is cramped, so I'm not going to attempt getting in there. Like all its new cars, Honda is also offering the Mobilio with two engine options. There's the 1.5 litre i-VTEC petrol engine, and there's the 1.5 litre i-DTEC diesel engine. The one that I'm driving right now is the diesel. It's essentially the same engine that you get inside the Amaze and the Honda City. Produces 100 PS of power and 200 Newton meters of torque. Now those figures, frankly, for the entry-level sedan, the Amaze and the Honda City were still quite good. But the Mobilio, it's a heavier vehicle, and these figures sort of start feeling a little diminutive when you start driving the car. When I'm alone in the car, it feels perfectly fine. Overtaking isn't a problem on the highway, taking on the twisties isn't a problem. But the moment I have more people inside the car, the vehicle starts feeling a little sluggish. You feel that there's need for more torque, it needs better pulling capacity. With a full house, I'm sure it's going to be a little bit of a problem. But then that is the issue that you're going to have with all these compact MPVs. Again, that said, the fuel economy for this vehicle, the claimed fuel economy, is 24.2 kilometers to a litre, which again is lesser than that of the Amaze and the Honda City. But then, of course, it is because of the extra weight that this vehicle carries thanks to its larger size. Now, we haven't been able to put this car through a proper road test yet, so we can't give you the real-world fuel economy figures. But from whatever we have driven, the computers on the instrumentation are telling us that we've been getting between 15 to 16 kilometers to a litre. Another factor that is much talked about when it comes to Honda's diesel cars is the noise factor. Now the Amaze has the noisiest engine of the lot, whereas the same engine in the city feels quieter. Now the Mobilio is somewhere in between. It isn't as loud as the Amaze, nor is it as quiet as the Honda City. But then over 100 kilometers an hour, you will hear the engine burble, you'll hear that gravelly clatter of this diesel engine. Wind noise over 120 kilometers an hour, you have quite a significant amount of it. And tire noise is quite low, but because there is no insulation on the wheel wells or inside the wheel wells, every little pebble that hits the metal, you're going to hear it inside the cabin. There, you just heard that. Now, that is not something that you would expect from a car in this price point. The petrol power comes from the familiar 1.5-litre i-VTEC motor that puts out 119 PS of power and 145 Nm of torque. Though not as torquey as its diesel sibling, the petrol variant builds up pace quickly and makes for faster overtakes. The rev-happy nature may make you want to push the Mobilio more, but if you have chosen to buy a people carrier, you may not exactly fancy pushing it hard. Moving on to ride quality, now we subject this vehicle to a lot of highway runs. We took it around the twisties, we also took it on some really broken patches, and the Mobilio did shine. Now, like most other Hondas, the ride quality is quite pliant, it's quite smooth over broken surfaces as well. You don't get that choppy ride, it's quite comfortable. The Mobilio is a lot more car-like to drive compared to a Xylo or the Quanto even for that matter. The vehicle doesn't feel like it has a lot of body roll, it doesn't feel like a boat. And that's a really good thing. In fact, the drive quality is so car-like that I'm going to coin a new term for these vehicles like the Mobilio and the Ertiga. I'm going to call them crossover MPVs because they are car-like to drive, but they give you that elevated driving position and the space of an MPV. Crossover MPVs then. And because it is so car-like to drive, the Mobilio also feels a lot safer than the conventional MPVs. It is stable at highway speeds and composed around corners. Around tighter bends though, the Mobilio makes its rear end weight evident. You feel like you're driving a hatchback that is dragging a long tail behind it. And speaking of the length, the Mobilio isn't equipped with any proximity parking sensors. The top spec version gets a reversing camera though as a part of the infotainment package. The light steering wheel is convenient for urban conditions, but on the highway I would have preferred it to be heavier with better feedback. There is no doubt then that the Mobilio is the most stylish MPV in its category. Being based on the Brio platform, it also manages to be frugal and at the same time is priced competitively. And if the success of the Amaze is anything to go by, I think Honda is brewing yet another storm.